Hello and welcome to another perfectly imperfect conversation for the Flourishing Education podcast. Today, I'm really excited, and I really mean it from the bottom of my heart, to bring you my new guest, Lara Dzabolova. A very warm welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really exciting to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
No, wonderful. So for the audience, Lara and I know each other, and in a minute you're gonna understand why when I ask her the first question I ask all of our guests. So, and we often have amazing conversations together. So we thought we would record one of them for you to hear. So here it is. Lara, the same question as all of my guests. So can you tell us a little bit about you, where you are in the world, and what has been your journey in education so far?
Yes, great questions. I'm currently in Bristol in the area Stokescroft, which is very different to my previous experience in Bristol. So I'm learning more about this area of the city. So I'm in my second year of PhD at the School of Education in the University of Bristol. I did my master's here as well, like 7 years ago. But I grew up and most of my life I lived in Russia, in southwest of Russia, in a beautiful mountainous region called North Ossetia. Um, yeah,
Amazing. And so, yes, so we know each other because we belong to the same school of education, right?
yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So, where shall we start with this conversation? Is there something like for you that emerges that you'd like us to explore? Um,
Hmm. Good question. No, let's see what happens.
yeah, let's see how it goes.
I think
So
that's the beauty of our
yeah,
conversations.
yeah, that's it. It's just
Become
meander.
some point and then it becomes beautiful.
Yes, amazing. So PhD second year.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Shall we linger here, like in terms
Yeah,
of
for
like
sure.
a second year PhD student?
Yeah, a lot of my time is spent thinking about what is it actually that I do. So, yeah. Um, so
What is it you do? Why?
yeah, good question. Yes. So, my research is looking at the intersections of climate change, politics, and universities. So, in particular, I'm interested in activism in universities in relation to climate change. For me, second year of PhD is sort of understanding better what it is that academia is, what is the value of research. Not that I have all the answers, but more sort of understanding, as you say, like bodily understanding of what it is that I'm doing here. So in general, I would describe my current experience with PhD as sort of changing pace in a way. I think that's in general like the main way I would describe doing research, probably, and specifically PhD, because it's such a weird, strange, and fun experience. Because you're given these 3 to 4 years to slow down, snap out of everything you have ever known, and you're faced with all this knowledge and all these experiences, and probably most challenging side of it is you facing yourself and like you sort of unraveling all these assumptions and learnings that you've been lucky to have received, but also that you've been conditioned to. Um, so yeah, it's a lot about changing pace because to me, doing a PhD well means being slow and not slow as in you're made to be slow because some of the things you do are really difficult and it takes time, but also like being intentionally slow, like learning to sit down and just engage very deeply with everything you're experiencing and learning and what the world is telling you and not run away. You know what I mean? Um,
I do.
yeah. Um, But also, so it's weird because it's this unique experience, and that's what like a good use of that time would be. But also, you are in a university and in general in a setting which approaches everything through productivity, um, speed, and you can't really be blind to that side of the PhD either, which is partly good. Sorry, there's a helicopter.
I
Right
can't hear
outside.
it. We can't hear it, so it's all
But
good.
you
I think
can't.
perfect conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Um, Yeah, so you can't really be blind to that side of the PhD either, because otherwise, for me anyways, I wouldn't get anything done probably. So yeah, there's this weird dance between very different speeds, and for me, it's about learning to be comfortable between the two, but also knowing when to do what best, I think.
I love that. I love that calling it a dance because that really feels like that's what it is for me too. And I think, yeah, I echo your like the need to slow down and this how a PhD weirdly. So in a way, a PhD. I mean, I don't know if you feel like this. Maybe for me, it's because I'm a white sort of mature woman, and so I feel very privileged to have been granted like those 4 years
Hmm.
to really focus on this area that is I'm really passionate about. Um, and sometimes there's a part of me that feels slightly guilty that I have funding and that I have that time to really, that I've literally been able to step away from the day-to-day sort of like job of being in the classroom and being like, now I call myself a recovering teacher, all of those things. Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't know whether you feel that too, in the sense that it feels very luxurious in many ways to be able to be in an environment like the School of Education, that which by the way I love. It's so lovely because there's so amazing people like the academics, but also PGRs and undergrads. um yeah, I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. Uh, Yeah, I think it's a very, as you said, it is a privilege, especially in the current world of just to survive, you actually need to be doing something constantly just to make money and to be able to not worry about those things and to actually sit down and to engage with yeah, like literature, for example, and spend time thinking about the things that you're interested in it. Yeah, it's a big privilege, and yeah, a big privilege for sure.
And in a way, like what you're also like you've just said, I think it's a big privilege. And in that, there's also, I feel like there's the importance of academia and research,
Yeah.
in a sense that, I mean, I don't know whether again you agree, um, but I often feel that we academics and have a duty, and this is why my friend Dr. Byrne Nichols, who's in Australia, when I interviewed her on the podcast, she gave me this new word, pracademic, practitioner first and then academic, and I really like, I'm always grateful to her, for this new words because it describes so much what I believe in. Like, I'm first a practitioner, I was in the classroom for so many years, and I'm interested in research in a sense of like, is it going to help me with my job in the classroom or my role as a mother, for example. And so I really feel strongly that research academics
Mm.
have a real duty to make their work available to improve, like for example, because we are education, right? Like our field is education. How do we improve the field of education?
Yeah.
Um, do you also feel this way about academia and research?
Yeah, for sure. Well, for me, it doesn't necessarily have to be. only about academia. I don't think you meant that, but I think in general as humans, and especially humans like us that truly benefit from so much violence historically and currently. Um, yeah, we have, in general, as humans, we have responsibility to engage with that and to change that. But specifically in academia, yeah, for sure. I'm not sure of the sort of, I don't know if you're positioning this as binaries, practice and like theory.
No, like for me they're not. So
Yeah,
like they're definitely, you can't divorce one from the other. It's I love what you sort of started the conversation with this dance. So for me, I love Alan Rayner when I speak to him, which is he's a philosopher and he's created natural like inclusionality as a philosophy. He always uses hands to sort of like describe this, like it's this. So it's that flow forming into being and becoming. So for
yeah,
me, like, yes, I'm a practitioner and academic, but that's both
yeah.
and it's not either or. It's definitely a dance. So yeah. Sorry,
Well, I
sorry if that
agree.
wasn't obvious.
No, that's fine, yeah. But yeah, then I definitely agree with you on that because it isn't a binary and it doesn't have to be and it can't be because well, no theory that is useful is based on just ideas. It is based on practice, but also so much of our practice um, is based on theory and also is improved because of theory. And because some people spend a proper amount of time thinking about these things and connecting dots and thinking about what does this actually mean. So I think that's probably the main or one of the duties of us as academics, as researchers, because we are given this opportunity to slow down, to sit down and to think. That's probably like the main sentence in the description of what we do. Just think and connect, but also connect what is this research telling us and what is this theory that I'm working with, how is it helpful in practice, but also these lived experiences and what is going on in the world. What does that mean for theory, and how can I change this theory again to be more useful for that world that we're trying to
Yeah,
uh,
yes.
change?
And I love that because effectively lived experience also shapes the theory or may help like change the like, so the practice affects the theory and then the theory feeds like back to the praxis, etc.
Yeah,
And so effectively for me what we're touching on is like the epistemology, right? Like the how we know the knowledge in like those big words in academia, like the theory and the philosophy of knowledge, and then the praxis, as Freire called it, like the practice, the policy. But I think there's also a big element that I feel very deeply about. And in a way, our PhD is a PhD of like philosophy of education. So that ontological piece.
yeah,
Um, and I wonder whether you've got any thoughts on that. So for the listeners, ontology, big word, is like epistemology and praxis, right? Like we academics, we like our big words. But for me, the way I would describe ontology, it's like the essence is what is, right? It's like it's what underpins everything we do and think.
yeah.
Would you agree with that definition?
Yeah. Yeah, for me, ontology is so what is the world? What is real? What
Mm,
is out there? If you look at the garden, what is that garden?
yeah, yeah. And so this is where, for me, like this is an important conversation, and in effect, that's where perhaps that's why I like to have those deep conversations on the podcast. Is an invitation to have an ontological sort of conversation around, you know. So that idea of what is academia, what is research, because I've just alluded slightly to it when I said the language we use in academia is very like those big words like ontology, epistemology, praxis, you know. They're big words for people who often on the ground may not understand those words, right? So do you think there's also a duty for us researchers, academics, people in higher education, even the word higher education, I mean, we could linger there for a
Yeah.
bit if we want.
But yeah,
um,
higher ones. Yeah.
yeah, so what do you think about those?
Yeah, for sure. We like our big words. I'm not obviously completely opposite of those big words because they're really helpful to describe things that we're studying, things that we're looking at. The problem is when these words are used like like for personal reasons, like to show, look at me how smart I am, but also without any consideration as to why is this word useful in everyday life. So knowing the word ontology or thinking about that, how is that going to help me? So in everyday life, for example. So yes, I think I love academia, I love research, but also many of us are just terrible at remembering that this is not about just thinking and writing. This is about thinking and writing to make something better and to together holding hands work on collectively sort of repairing all the harm that has been going on. I think sometimes, not sometimes, very often, we're very good at forgetting that.
I agree. I agree. And so, I give you a magic wand
Hmm.
and that can change for you. How would it change the sort of like this forgetting we have? So it's like something you said about like this idea of, oh, I'm using big words because I want to feel like I want to show how intelligent I am.
Yeah.
I think that's just baked in the system, right? Like this whole idea of we. I mean, I find it fascinating the amount of people when people ask me if they don't know me, what are you doing? And I go, I'm doing a PhD. The response is always, wow, like
Yeah.
is this you can tell how it's already like baked and embedded in the system.
Yeah.
So in the same way that the forgetting that what we're doing, how is that going to be relevant, or how is it going to help be the reparative, or help with the social injustices of the world, right? You were sort of alluding to earlier on. And in a way, perhaps that leads to that like a second sub question, which is, is it linked to the purpose of education as
Hmm.
a conversation? Is that what we also need to be having as a conversation, in a sense that, are we educating for the world of work and
Yeah.
for people to just join the economy, and or is education about something else?
Big questions. Um, so I got a bit lost. So you were asking me what I think education is for, should be for.
Yeah, well, that and also if I have a, even like as we were sharing, that what emerged for me was like, oh, maybe like the question is like, what's education for? But also I would love you to sort of like share, if I gave you a magic wand and you had like a wish where like we don't forget that education is about the reparative futures and all of those things, then what would it look like? So I guess I've given you two questions in one.
Okay. Big questions.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say right away, I don't have any answers to any of those questions. I can share some reflections, probably observations. For me specifically, personally, the value, sort of the beauty of education, formal, informal, be it in a university, be it at this desk reading, um, be it reading academic literature or fiction, doesn't matter. All of this is education because you're learning about the world. Um, the value has been sort of understanding who I am. How is it that I am here? And thinking about I've been given I've been given this gift of time of just being alive and just being on this planet. What do I want to do with this? And with all the gifts and challenges and problems and joys and everything that comes with life, what do I want to do with this? So education for me has been asking me those questions, giving me pointers, giving me answers. So I think, yeah, probably that's one answer to your big question. Um,
And by
think,
the way, I love it. Like the reason I'm asking these questions is I want to hear your reflections because
okay,
they're really like the reason I ask those questions is because they're quite deep questions,
yeah,
effectively.
yeah,
But for me, the reason I have those imperfectly perfect conversation is because I just really feel that that's how we are going. All of us
yeah,
are going to like it's about pausing and going, oh, okay. So I love like that. This is what I love about you and like the humility you always show and that yeah, like that's why I love being in your presence is you're so amazing at going, well, and I haven't got answers, but I can give you some reflections or some pointers. And that in itself is so beautiful. Like it's just, yeah, like it's that sort of emulating and living and breathing the values that I know you hold. Um, so and I know also like in academia we have this like you were talking about it we hold those two things where you've got to perform, there's some performativity at the end of the day. You and I will have to or to write a 80,000 word with thesis. There are things that you have to do to get through the process.
yeah,
And there is a performativity. So like a lot of us, if we've been schooled, we'll have this notion of like, oh, I've got to give you my best answer because, So I just want to like put you at ease that like there is no, I have absolutely no expectation of because
yeah,
I don't know what I would answer to the question I've just asked you.
yeah. Well, that would be interesting. What would you answer?
um so I think for me the question we're now asking is what is the purpose of education in a sense of like there's almost an accept so that I would even go one level down, educational schooling, because I
Okay,
think for me that's different.
good point.
You also alluded to the fact that there's reading academic papers and then there's reading fictions and like at your desk and in a setting. And I guess like those questions then feed into education. What is education? What do we mean by education? And depending back to that ontological piece, right, like the who do we believe is right inverted commas, because I don't think we take on just one notion of education. But perhaps like the thing is, what is education? Or, how would we describe education? Because from there then maybe the drivers are sort of like very different, right?
Yeah, it's a very good point. Yeah, I
So
just
so
no.
what do you think education is for? Like would what would be your position on that?
What is it for? Sorry, say
And how would you describe it? It's like,
what
yes,
is education?
yeah.
Yeah, that is a very good question because I've been thinking about it recently as well. It seems like life is just the thing that we think of education as something separate or like a separate stage in life. This is when you study and then you go and do life. This is also quite funny because we are in the world and and we're learning
Mm.
like through our brains, through our eyes, through touch, through muscles. You're learning, you're observing, and yeah, that's education. You're just learning about what ontology, what is the world,
Yeah.
what is out there, what am I, what do I want to do with all of this? Um, yeah, but um, yeah, so probably, and it's a good point that you made. There's a difference between education and schooling. Perhaps most of what I appreciate and value in education has been outside of classroom and guided more by instinct and like questions than instructions, not to devalue many amazing teachers that I've been very lucky to meet and have informal institutions like here in the University of Bristol in the School of Education. I'm really lucky to work with amazing um, supervisors, for example, and the whole community in the school. So I'm not saying there's no value in that, but um, I think it goes beyond the formal understanding of education as schooling. It's just life experiences and what you learn from them. Like,
Yeah. And Dewey, do you know Dewey? So Dewey was somebody like he says education is life.
and research, the fact that we like in academia, sometimes we just think of research as this one big, amazing, unique thing that we do. We're very good at like what research is that research, when I say research, just for clear understanding, I mean the research that we understand in Western research universities very rational and binary. So what we mean by research in that, or very binary and linear, what we understand by research in that is what we have really good tools of finding sort of knowledge through those tools. And there's value in that. How we do it is a very different question with what kind of relations we approach that. But there's value in that. But in general, the fact that we sometimes think of research as this unique thing that only we do, this is really funny to me because is it really the tools that we use are different. But again, education slash research, they go together because you go out in the garden, you look at the rose and you think, oh, how is it that I don't know, the rose is blossoming at the end of November? That's research. It's
Yeah.
different to academic research, and the strength of academic research is in the community that we together create these tools and we go and like find out what's going on sort of systemically. But it's not a unique university is not a unique sort of place, and we are not unique in doing research. Research and education is life, as you said.
Yeah. And so going back to my question, I'm sorry, like in my typical neurodivergent way, I'm just going like back and forth and just
Ah, I love that.
everywhere.
Non linear. I love that. It's life again.
Yeah, it's like flow. So going back to that question, I give you a magic wand
Yeah.
and you have you've got carte blanche to just like you
Yeah.
just do you can what would I see, what would I hear, what would I feel, what would we experience when we talk about education?
Again, big questions. I think probably an important thing for me to have in education is to have that freedom to follow your gut. And if we were to have teachers, um, the role of the teacher, as in, yeah, the role of the teacher would be probably to hold space for the, yeah, less experienced in life, to hold space to learn to follow the instinct, follow the gut, and support, I guess, not to sort of diminish these experiences or discard the questions that are asked. Probably the opposite, like hold space for the questions, for what emerges, the word that we both like. Yeah, and see what happens. Yeah, so probably move away from that linear productive version of what we have to do and just be together and having that time together hold space to explore where our gut, where our body, where our thinking as well, where all of that leads us and what questions emerge.
Mm.
Again, that's one pointer to add potential answer. I have no idea.
I love it though, because that fits in with what you said about what you're experiencing during your PhD, which is getting to know yourself. So I think what you're pointing to right here for
Yeah.
me is also, and by the way, I feel exactly the same. So
Okay.
I'm I'm 50, as the listeners will know, doing a PhD, um, and I'm learning so much about who Fabienne is.
Okay.
In that sense, like through my PhD, I got my diagnosis of ADHD. I didn't have that before, and I'm making sense of so much of what's happened in the past, and who I am and what I value and all of those things. So in a way, I mean, I don't know whether it's just me putting things on what you and linking what you've just said, but to me, like, I'm hearing that space that we've both been given has given us both an opportunity to just sort of discover, well, who is Lara, who is Fabian, this human, like this being in this body, with this shape, perhaps in a way that, like, schooling hasn't. I mean, I don't know about your experience, but definitely my schooling has never given me space to just know who I was.
Yeah, most of, again, not every experience that I had, but a lot of formal schooling has been, yeah, there hasn't been space to slow down and explore who you are. It was mostly about you have to know this.
Yeah, knowledge as in intellectual knowledge, right, and ideas.
Yeah, having nothing to do with emotion, body, love.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. um and so, like, that to me is about being with self in my research,
Mhm.
the sort of like learning to be with self first, because I think, and then that links to the research you're doing around climate change
Mhm.
and the role of universities and activism, so in your research, and I would love your take on that. So, like, my research, because I'm using relational well-being, I'm looking at the being with self, being with others, and being with the planet as the three things that are essential for our well-being.
Yeah.
Um, and so, and I really, like, more and more, the more I read, the more I explore, the more I'm given sort of space and time. I really think that we, like, being with self is actually essential, but self with a big S, not self as in like ego, like
Yeah.
really connected to who we are, because then you can be of service to others on the planet. And until you have that, I don't think you can care for others on the planet, because you're so self-centered and focused on yourself,
Yeah.
because you're worried about being validated or showing how intelligent you are with your big words. Oh, and by the way, I say that because I that's what I used to do a lot. So
I add something quickly here. Yeah, I also know this because it's my experience as well, and it's in no way like a way to again diminish those experiences because it's the world we're conditioned to, and the desire to form is what we've been conditioned to. And what you're saying about being with self is probably like thinking about why is it that this performativity matters to me not in a way to put guilt on yourself or to like be harsh on yourself, probably the opposite, to
Yeah.
understand how is it that this is important and is it really important.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put that out there. It's not in no way a shame, like a way to put shame on anyone, because we all do this.
Yeah, yeah, we've all been we take it that we've all been conditioned and socialized, and so therefore we are all part, like Vanessa Andreotti says, we all part of modernity. Not no man is an island. Like, so if we're all here, we all walk in with some sort of that aspect in us, right? To a lesser or greater degree, definitely. But you know, like with being with self, there's something you say about you that I absolutely love, like this idea that you describe yourself as being a human and a human being.
Mm.
So would you feel able to share a little bit about like some of the questions you saw and the reading you've been doing, because you've been sharing with me? I think that's like maybe the listeners might be interested in that.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great question. I love talking about things that I read. Um, yeah. I'm gonna start there. So things that I've been engaging with, a big appreciation to the collective that we both engage with, gesturing towards the Colonial Futures Collective. They're an amazing group of people. I've recently taken a course that they do at the University of Victoria. I think, I hope I'm saying that right, on facing human wrongs and talking about climate complexity and relationality. So that was a big experience for me in this facing um, myself, because a big focus of that, oh, more like an invitation of that course, was to explore us as humans as part of this world that we're all related to, and what we think we are and why we think we are that way. Um, and so that really helped me and has been shaping the way I think of myself. So one example I can give is um, so in modernity, so in the modern world, we like to separate us from the world, from nature. Um, but then through that course, for example, it became really clear that you really really can't. It just, even rationally, it doesn't make sense, because we come from land is mother to everything. Even everything is a weird word in this context. Mother Land is mother to every being on this planet, including us, and we share air with the flowers, with the trees, we share water with the land. So yeah, it's like we're holding hands with every being around us, and the differences that we try to, like the separation we try to build between human and non-human, or living beings and non-living beings, those become really funny, because this pen, we think of it as it, but is it really it? Isn't it made of materials that are there?
Yeah. And
uh,
our bodies are made of material, right? Like it's literally minerals, like our bones and everything else. And when our bodies start decaying, when we're not here anymore, we are dead. Um, we will return to the earth. You know, whether you cremated or you buried, your body goes back to earth, like to where it comes from, right?
Exactly. And then so through that experience, like outside of research, even when I'm in my room, I no longer think of myself as being alone in this room, because I'm not alone. Look at the plants, look at the garden. I'm with them. And this wall is just there probably to save me from the wind, but that's probably it. It in no way means that I'm separate from that garden. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so that's like one little example of little but really profound and deep and life-changing in a way of yeah, my experience of engaging with a lot of research and praxis.
Yes, it's so, and that's what I love. It's so beautiful. That's why I wanted us to. So, but would you share some of the books you're reading with us? Because I think some of the listeners might be interested in some of those, like, like what do you feel inspired to sort of like share with us in terms of where you've been? And for the listeners, I will put the links to. I've mentioned her already, but Professor Vanessa Andreotti, who, well, like with the collective, is behind the whole of the gesturing towards the colonial. Is that what it's called?
Colonial futures, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you shouldn't have asked me that question because there's so many answers I can give you. Okay, but I'm gonna give you three examples of academic literature.
Yeah.
So one is by Vanessa, who you've already
Yeah.
mentioned.
Yeah.
Listeners
Oh,
have probably already heard of this book, Hospicing
yes.
Modernity.
Yes.
And I know there's a second book.
I've got the second one, so which is
There you go.
the
Yeah,
aggroing modernity, which is the next one. I've also got hospicing modernity, but I've lent it to Sarah Eagle. So yes.
that's the one. Yeah, so this to me is a great example of what we were talking about a couple of weeks ago, academia research as activism. We can talk about it later if you'd like
Yeah,
to.
no. Well, let's hold that thought.
Okay.
We'll come back to that because
Okay.
you mentioned climate change and activism. So I'd like us to discuss that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So great book, really recommended to everyone.
Yes, I agree.
This is another beautiful book. It's called We Are Nature Defending Itself. It's by Isabel Fremo. I hope I'm reading that right.
Yeah,
You are
yeah.
the places.
Frémaux, I would say she's French.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
I would say Isabelle Frémaux, and
Jay Jordan.
Jordan. Yeah, Jay Jordan.
Um, Also a great book, and it talks a lot about what we've just touched upon, that these distinctions between living and non-living beings, human, non-humans, how truly ridiculous they are. But in general, this book is about it's a story of victory, of resistance in a town in France where the local government, I think, wanted to build another airport, and there was strong resistance from people in the town to that airport. And so this group of people sort of occupied that land, defended that land, and the airport never happened.
Amazing. See the power of like collective, right? Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And
Amazing.
the final book that I'm reading right now is by Karen O'Brien. It's called You Matter More Than You Think. So it's about sort of, for me, it's helpful to understand activism, agency, in particular, human agency, and what that means for making change happen. So I would say the main premise of this book is no one is too small to make a difference. And if you think of the world as this complex world, which is in no way linear, then a tiny little thing that you might do can trigger big changes. You will never know what you do, what consequences what you do will have, because that's the
It reminds me of the Dalai Lama's quote: "If you think you're too insignificant to make a difference in life, try sleeping with a mosquito."
that's a great goal. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. That's even better than what I said.
No, it's just like I think it
Good.
complements
Yeah,
so beautifully what you've just said. It's amazing.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so it talks about that,
Mm,
the non-linearity of change and the emergent nature of life.
amazing. So you've used several words like us as a linguist, non British sort of native speaker. I'd like us to linger on. To be fair, I think many British people don't actually think about descriptions of words or what they actually mean. So it'll be useful, I think. So you and I have had many conversations around activism.
Yeah.
Um, and around that word, because I think for me it's around that this thing of action. What action can we take? And
Yeah.
activism often, I mean, particularly in the UK, it's become a bit of an issue, because with activism sometimes, I'm thinking, as I use that word, the image that comes up is this uh, um, lady who's in her 80s or something like that, and has been arrested so many times because she's part of the Palestine um, action. Yeah. And obviously keeps being arrested because she just keeps going out protesting. And I think part of the problem is, I think our systems in the UK are being much more like tighter and more, there's more restrictions on activism. So could you tell us what for you activism is?
Thank you for that question, because again, I love having those conversations. So for me, that's one part of activism. So what we think immediately of activism is probably protests outside, people marching, yeah, asking for change from the political systems. And those have been really powerful historically, obviously, in making change happen. But there's one part of activism in like a big or many layers even of different forms of activism. So for me, to be an activist, it means you recognize that there are things that are wrong with the world, and no matter what you do, the purpose of your work is about changing, making changes happen so that those wrongs happen less and less frequently, probably. Um, yeah. So it's about making sure that nobody's, and here I mean every being around us, human, plants, gardens, doesn't matter. So it's about making sure that nobody's freedom to be who they want to be and to be happy, that so no one's freedom is compromised. So I think, yeah, deep down, that's to me what it all boils down to. To be an activist is to do work to make sure that these freedoms, that everyone has these freedoms and they cannot be taken away.
Mm.
And that, so again, those protests are just one form of making sure that happens, but research is a form of activism. And your podcast is a form of activism, because we didn't discuss this explicitly, but I'm assuming the purpose of you hosting these conversations is to contribute to a different kind of conversation that is going on in the world, and maybe offer sort of space for anyone who wishes to engage with and to think about what can we do to make change for the better world. So it's a form of activism. But again, in a complex sort of world that is super interconnected, you will never know what.
That's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Unless people tell you, right? Unless people specifically write and tell you, then
Yeah.
you don't know. Yes, yes. Mm. And this is what I really loved in our conversation that time, because when you were like telling me, I was like, oh, I've never thought about it. Like, there's no way I would have described myself as or the podcast as being a form of activism. So that was quite like really positive, because often also activism can be seen as being action, and sometimes quite angry action. Like, I'm thinking throwing with soup over like the Mona Lisa, or like all of those things, right? Like, or I guess I'm French, so for me, like, activism is also linked to revolution, and like putting people's heads on a stick and stuff.
Yeah.
um
Again, thinking of revolutions, there's so many layers and so many things that happened before the revolution. So many revolutions probably wouldn't have happened in the way that they happened without research and
mm,
philosophy and
mm,
thinking.
mm,
So like
Yes.
one person can't do it all. You can't write up a theory of change and then go out in the street and change everything. And that's not the point. We all contribute with the things that we're good at and we want to do.
Mm,
So I would argue that revolutions happened because there were people who did the thinking and the writing, and then they gave that sort of to their
to people.
friends and like fellow humans, say, this is what we can do. And in those conversations, with those conversations turned into action, and
Mm.
ta-da.
And
So
also, like if you look at the French Revolution, and this is what I shared with you, I think the problem is, yeah, we had a revolution, but we forgot to remove the throne in the process.
yeah,
So what we did is we removed the kings in France, and
yeah,
then we made way for Napoleon to move forwards, and everything else that's come through. So
good point.
going back to this thing of like, how do we create social change or climate change, any change, right? Um, I think, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are around what I've just said, and
Mhm.
that's linked to agency,
Yeah.
that word. So I don't know whether you would want to share with us like how you would describe agency and like that sort of like individual agency, what I can do as an individual, like for example, this imperfectly perfect conversation, and then the collective agency also, and how all of those like flow form together and fit in.
Mm. So there are two layers to my understanding of agency. One, so agency is understanding of what makes this world, how is it, what happens in this world so that this world is as it is. And that includes obviously every being, human, things, garden, and so on. And so the helicopter, just like 10 minutes ago, there was sort of a form of agency because it changed the way this conversation went. It made me pause and like wait for it to pass. So that's an example of agency. So that's one sort of layer. We all are here making this world, and this is agency. But then another layer is obviously these conscious choices, and now we're talking about human agency, these conscious choices that we make to, for example, to make change happen. Um, and here, what I think is important to remember when we think of individual change, not again, not to diminish the value of individual change, because we've just said, like thinking about who you are, how is it that you are in this world in the way you are, very important questions, and they influence everything they do. But then when we speak of climate change, for example, a lot of sort of discourse on individual agency is a way of sort of probably putting guilt or maybe evoking some sort of guilt on an individual person and making it feel like, this is all
On me.
fault. So if I stop eating meat, if I stop buying plastics, or if I start recycling, it's all gonna be fine.
Mm.
No, these are all important things, but I would say don't let the colonial capitalist discourse of individual action make you feel guilty. I'm not saying we're not part of this mess. We are all part of this mess. We all contribute, and it's just unfortunately how the world works. But guilt in itself is a very colonial construct. It's in a way serves to sort of mm, make us feel sort of, can't find the right word, maybe like frozen
Mm,
or
mm. Oh,
immobile.
it's a very good friend of mine being raised as a Catholic, I can tell you.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, it's a very colonial construct.
Yeah.
So while individual action and change obviously matters a lot, we shouldn't forget about the big systems that are responsible and that were built by humans for their own profit and benefit. Um, and those are the systems that are mostly at fault for the violence that has been going on. in the world. So yes, individual change, perfect, must happen, but it doesn't end there. It's
No. And it's like it then fits in with like what you're researching effectively because universities. So, as you know, I'm part of the reparative futures program at the University of Bristol. And I'm one of the students of this academic year. I'm one of the students accountability partners. And so looking at how like our university has been built on slavery, and actually not being afraid to just say we need to address this and to just realize
Mm.
what the implications are, in a way link back to your topic and climate change and like fossil fuel industries and like the ramifications, I guess, like what we see in universities or organizations, like pension schemes, right? Where do we invest our pension schemes, for
Yeah,
example?
exactly. I have no idea. But yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the point. It's the systems, it's the individual humans with addresses, obviously, that contribute to making those systems benefit them. And probably the source of the heart of change is there, dismantling the systems or maybe changing them. And that change happens step by step and it's emergent, and we're all holding hands together and we're figuring this all out.
Having imperfectly perfect conversations, right? Like we are. And I've got one last question before I ask you our last question, because I'm also conscious of time um, and then we can have more imperfectly perfect conversations. That'd be amazing. So that what we've just said to me is I picture it in my head, and I'm sorry listeners, my brain works with visuals, so if it doesn't
Yeah.
fit, apologies. But there's this image where you have like me and then we, and if you look at me and we and you imagine there's a mirror or like water, the M of W is like it's on its way, it's like shifting on its way, on its head, right? It's a mirror image. And going back to like the binaries, is so easy to say it's about the individual, it's about the collective and the me. To me, I wonder whether you could sort of tell us how you feel about like the me we and that dance, um because I think that's quite an important point.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I think, hmm. Yeah, my question is it really possible to always say, or to always sort of distinguish me from the we? Isn't the me like a product, an emergent project of everything that is we? Again, there is like a part of us that is us. Is probably something that when people or our friends think of us, that thing that stands out, that's us. So I'm not trying, again, I'm not trying to sort of diminish the value or the uniqueness of each individual human being, but I think they can't be separated. Me is the we, as your image suggests, and we are part of
The
the
us.
and we are interdependent. We are in interdependent relations with each other. I wouldn't be here without every other being on this planet. Um,
Yeah.
but also, this room would be very different without me in it. So it's this again, to use that word. It's a dance, and we together make up this world. I wonder if it's always possible to distinguish me from the we. Probably not. So the me that I think of me is a combination of many things that have happened, haven't happened, and the choices that I made, and probably the reflections that have happened.
Or not happened.
Oh yeah, or didn't happen. A lot of those.
And it's sort of so yeah, as you say that, I think what sort of emerged, it's also the recognition that, of course, in our neoliberal capitalist systems, we are, like we said previously, we are encouraged to be focused on just the individual, right? And to compete, because our societies have been built on the selfish gene and the Darwin like survival of the fittest, and
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately. But that makes life so much more stressful. I think realizing that it doesn't have to be a competition, realizing that honestly we're just all doing the same thing and just trying to figure things out. And instead of competing, we can just be there for each other, holding hands and supporting each other. That's just so much more joyful and fun.
I love your image of holding hands. I love that. Thank you. So, as we sort of like bring this imperfectly perfect conversation to a close, um, I've got two questions, and you don't have to answer them both, but it's just sort of the first one: is there a question that I haven't asked you that you're like, oh, I so wish Fabian had asked me this question?
Ooh, no, really, I don't think. No. Yeah, it's a very perfectly imperfect conversation.
Yes, a good meandering and dance together for sure, into being and becoming, as I like to call them. So, thank you. And then the final question, which is the question I ask everybody, is, what is there anything that stands out from this imperfectly perfect, perfectly imperfect conversation that you want to leave us with, or you're taking with you, and both? Um,
Hmm. Big questions, Fabia.
you know me, I love deep, big
Yeah,
questions.
I think I'll just share. I feel like this conversation has been a lot about what does this mean, this being, what does it mean? Why are we here as humans? And in particular, what are we here for in research and in academia? Um, in general, what are we here for? I would say we must remember that we humans, non-humans, we're just these floating, happy little beings in space, perfectly imperfect, to borrow your words. And probably the goal is to just have fun. Um, yeah. And in academia, I think that plus remembering why are we here outside of the binaries, linearity and productivity, performativity, deep down, why are we here? Why did we come into academia? What is the value of that? What is it that we want to change? And um probably, yeah, I think being honest, I think in academia, my message for academia, let's be honest all together. That would make it a lot more fun. And
And have more fun. Let's have more fun, right?
yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I love how you describe it. We're like floating happy beings in space. That's so beautiful.
Yeah. Just float around, figuring things out, and you can never say this is me. You're always just changing, and that's the fun of it.
Mm. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the invitation, for these beautiful questions. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, I loved it. I'm looking forward to the next one.
Oh yeah, always for sure. Thank you so much, and thank you for everyone who would listen to this.
And maybe, I mean, like one last question. If people want to reach out to you, how do they reach out to you, Lara? How do they find you?
In a very neoliberal manner, I'm just gonna say I'm on LinkedIn. You can always find me there. We can
Yes.
start our conversations there.
And I'll put the link to your LinkedIn
Yeah, Perfect.
people can find you.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank you.